Some superheroes save the world. Some become legends. But Spider-Man loses a part of himself every single time he tries to save someone. And maybe that's why his story feels so real. Because behind the mask, behind the powers, Peter Parker is just a human being trying not to fall apart. And today, we're gonna talk about Spider-Man's real curse. Hi, my name is Smith, and this is Smithverse. Spider-Man can stop trains. He can fight aliens. He can save an entire city with nothing but a mask and hope. But there's one thing Peter Parker has never been able to save: himself. And maybe that was always the point. Because Spider-Man's real curse was never his powers. It was the life that came with them. Peter Parker was never supposed to become a hero. Before the suit, before the powers, before New York knew his name, he was just a lonely kid trying to survive life. And honestly, that's why people connected with him immediately. Because Peter Parker wasn't perfect. He struggled with money. He struggled with confidence. He struggled with feeling invisible. Then one spider bite changed everything. Suddenly, Peter became powerful, faster, stronger, different. For the first time in his life, he finally felt special. But Spider-Man stories were never really about gaining power. They were about losing innocence. Because the moment Peter became Spider-Man, life started taking things away from him. And it started with Uncle Ben. Peter could have stopped the thief. He had the chance, but he didn't. And that single moment destroyed his life forever. With great power comes great responsibility. Most people hear that line as motivation, but for Peter Parker, it became a curse. If you love deep stories, cinematic edits, and characters that feel real, subscribe to Smithverse. We're just getting started. Because from that moment on, Peter stopped living for himself. Every choice became sacrifice. Want a normal relationship? Someone gets hurt. Want to protect the people you love? Put them in danger. Want a normal life? Too bad. That's the tragedy of Spider-Man. Peter Parker can never fully exist because Spider-Man consumes everything. Think about it. Every version of Spider-Man loses someone. Tobey lost Uncle Ben. Andrew lost Gwen. Tom lost Aunt May. Miles lost the life he once understood. Different universes, different stories, same pain. Because Spider-Man was never written to live happily ever after. He was written to endure, and maybe that's why Spider-Man became the most relatable superhero ever created. Not because he's the strongest, but because he keeps going. Even when life keeps breaking him, Peter Parker wakes up every day knowing the world will hurt him again. And he still puts the mask on. That's not power, that's courage. The saddest part about Spider-Man isn't the villains, it's the loneliness. Nobody truly understands Peter Parker. Not his friends, not the city, not even the people he saves. Because the closer people get to him, the more danger they face. And eventually, Peter learns the hardest lesson imaginable. Sometimes, loving people means staying away from them. And nowhere is this more painful than No Way Home. Peter saves the multiverse. He saves his friends. He saves everyone. But in the end, nobody remembers who he is. Think about how tragic that really is. The world gets its hero, but Peter Parker loses his entire life. And that's when you finally understand Spider-Man's real curse. It was never the mask, never powers, never the enemies. The real curse was responsibility. The responsibility to suffer quietly, to protect people who may never appreciate you, to sacrifice your own happiness for strangers and somehow still remain kind. Deep down, that's why Spider-Man matters to people. Because most of us know what it feels like to struggle silently, to smile when life hurts, to carry pressure nobody else sees. Spider-Man isn't a fantasy. He's a reflection of ordinary people trying to survive difficult lives. And maybe that's what truly makes Peter Parker a hero. Not because he saves the world, but because the world keeps hurting him and he still chooses to save it anyway.